Hey folks, welcome to day 3. I know, the third update. So, hope you've all had a very nice day, and let's get stuck into it. So, image number 1. This is just kind of like my basic warm-up practice. I draw a bunch of circles. I draw a bunch of kind of angled lines, straight lines, curved lines. I'll draw like little points on the page and try and draw lines smoothly from one point to the next. And this is just kind of, I thought I'd add this into the images because I think it's a good example of the sort of warm-ups that I'll try and do before delving into the actual main meat of the work today. So again, today I'm going to continue with doing Jake Parker's Mastering Perspective and also Trent's Easy Art Lessons 1 to 20 course. So starting with Trent's, we're going to go look at the, again, spheres. I know, spheres. What can you do? So the first page, we're going to get through these ones quickly though. So I did another, I'd say about 30 pages, kind of similar to these. So number 1, you can see I'm now playing quite a lot with the light placement. Number 2 has that kind of bottom right hand corner circle, has that kind of nice up the middle light source where it's kind of cutting them in two. So I'm still playing with light placement. I'm still trying to get the blending correct. It's still proving pretty difficult, but I think they're coming out looking okay. You know, they're not coming out looking too terrible. I'd say to a lot of you out there that are probably used to doing this stuff, they're probably hard to look at, but you know, for day 3, they're not coming out too badly, I don't think. The next one is again trying to play a little bit more with the spheres themselves. This time, the most interesting one being the center one, where I've put like 3 holes through it and then cut the side off. Still going too heavy and not taking my time in blending correctly. Also, the cross-hatching, it's okay. You know, there's aspects when I look at each one of these and I'm thinking, okay, well, this little section of it looks good, and then this section looks bad, and then this section looks good. There's a lot of good and a lot of bad. I just haven't got to that point where I'm able to get good transitioning into good. But again, I think blending and correctly blending, you know, shading is something that just takes time. But I'm definitely trying to keep it a little bit more interesting, because day 3 of doing 30 plus pages of this stuff, it's tough to keep the motivation on it. I'll be honest. But hey, you know, it's like everything. You need to suck it up. You need to do it, and that's what I'm doing. So as you can see, these next 3 pages I'm going to show you are just more on the lines of what I do for practice before delving into stuff. So here you can see more circles, a little bit of shading. Did these on the graphics tablet, trying to get used to the pen and working on it. It's pretty intuitive. It's different. Here you can see lines. Again, just crossing lines, trying to keep them as straight as possible, messing around with line width. It's actually, this page came out kind of interesting looking. And then feeding back into more circles and back into more lines. This time working with trying to get curved lines. One of the things that I'm trying to play around with is using the different parts of the arm, which I'm finding kind of difficult with the graphics tablet. I've got it on a stand that you can adjust, but it's still difficult to isolate. Say, keep your elbow and shoulder locked, and just use your wrist, and then just to use your elbow and wrist and keep your shoulder locked, and just playing around with how you can use your anatomy to get more precise lines. But this is kind of difficult because the graphics tablet itself is not a flat surface, so there's a bit of adjusting to do with it. Not to say I can do it traditionally, like still traditionally, they end up looking quite similar to this. Whereas you can see a lot of the curved lines they're wobbly, and some are good, some are bad, and again, it's just trying to get that consistency. But I find as a practice element, it's quite useful because I can see just at this point having to do this a lot in order to refine it. After that, I went straight into, again, practicing more shapes. As you can see here, this is more from Jake Parker's Mastering Perspective. Now I'm doing kind of similar stuff that Trent's course is also doing, which is kind of blending shapes into one another, and getting used to, spheres being connected into squares. And I think I'm starting to understand how to implement that a little bit better. Some of you guys have seen in my past 2 videos, I've tried to do similar things. There's one aspect of it where a square is hanging off a cylinder, but it very much looks like a square next to a cylinder, not that it's actually part of the cylinder. And that's kind of something I've been playing around with, trying to address while doing this perspectives course. But yeah, it's been entertaining so far. And Trent's gone into also, Jake Parker's gone into kind of lines and gesture as well. So kind of talking about what I was talking earlier about in the first video about line width and weight. A lot of this stuff is actually covered in Jake Parker's course as well. So you can see here 4 lines. There's 4 predominant lines that you'll use when building something. So you got gesture, which is kind of your layout, your structure, which is where you're trying to pick which lines of the gesture that you want to keep, and then you got your contour, which is kind of setting those lines apart from one another, and then you got your detail, which is kind of the final phase where you're starting to add in the sparkle, I suppose. And yeah, just trying to figure this stuff out and see where they construct it. It's been the most useful element, is just now looking at things, I can kind of deconstruct them, and that's helped not only in the ability to actually be able to do it, but actually get rid of the panic when you look at someone else's artwork and it's absolutely amazing. Instead of getting massively just like, oh god, I'm never going to be able to do that, I can now look at it and be like, okay, I can understand where he started with that. The level of skill is always going to be super impressive, but once you can understand where they began, it's not as much of a daunting task, I suppose. After that, I went straight back into practicing some of Trent's stuff. This time, these are just very simple sketches. I try to borrow. Barrels are the worst thing in the universe. I hate them. I've done so many pages of barrels, and it's something about the shape. I just can't get it right. I think this is like one of the best ones I produced, and it's still trash. God, barrels are just, I hate them. I hate them so much. At the bottom here, these are just quick sketches, kind of messing around with building slight houses and roads and things. This one I kind of like. I like the idea of like a Coke can, or an energy can, drink can. It kind of reminds me of Micro Machines, the old Sega Mega Drive game. I think it was the PS1, where you're like racing around tables and stuff like that. And then finally, to close up the day, I got onto my anatomy practice, which is progressing. Again, here you can see I've really tried to start playing with the pose, and trying to get a different, instead of just drawing the same kind of man and woman facing straight ahead, I'm now trying to play with placing the arms and moving the anatomy and trying to understand what happens when you now manipulate this dummy. Again, I'm not worrying about any details. I don't care about facial expressions or hair or hands or feet or anything like that. I'm just worried about getting that basic dummy, that blank slate of human body, into my head, so I can manipulate that. Once I can manipulate that, that's when I can start worrying about adding in, tone on musculature, and whether they're smiling, and what their hair is, and all that sort of stuff. Hands, I'm really dreading trying to learn how to draw hands. Here again, you can see kind of just playing around with it a little bit more. This was on the graphics tablet. Same rules apply. I'm not using the eraser on graphics tablet either. Nothing great to write home about. Just I think the pose here on the right kind of came out okay. It's just playing around. I did many pages of this similar stuff. I'm just trying to get that, now that I understand the basic fundamentals of the idea of how to construct it. I'm just trying to play with it as much as possible. And then here, you can see me trying to break it down even further. It's still so much work. Clothes as well. Clothes are a thing that I'm not going to worry too much about. That's an entirely different ballpark. The guy at the bottom here is not too bad. I don't know what I was doing with him, but I think I was actually trying to mess around with some foreshortening with his left leg, or I suppose stage left, or stage right wouldn't be. Yeah. But yeah, you can still see there's issues. There's issues all over the shop. But this is day 3, so I think I can kind of see the progress at the moment. Now, as to whether that will keep up in it or it'll just stall, it's getting there. But yeah, let's just keep on going. I'm looking forward to day 4 tomorrow. And again, guys, thank you very much for watching. And tomorrow I'll have another update for you. Again, have a wonderful evening. Like and subscribe if you like. If not, just have a great day and a better tomorrow. Have a good one, guys.